Greetings, and on today's episode we're going to look at making some potato pancakes. Easy and delicious, and can be used to complement many different foods. To begin with, we need a tablespoon of salt, a small onion, about a cup of panko, 3 eggs, and about 4 russet potatoes. I'm using garden grown ones here, so they're a little bit small. And we're going to use some beer as well. Okay, now we're going to get our bowl of cold water. We'll get our potatoes and our onions ready, and our box grater. We're going to use the big holes on the box grater, and we're just going to grate all these potatoes into the water. Now the reason why you have the water is so your potatoes don't dry out or brown or whatever. And the way that I usually do it is I do like a potato, then I do like part of the onion, and then I'll go back and do another potato, and that gets all the onion so it passes right through and mixes right into the mixture, as well as prevents it from getting all over the place and into my eyes and making me cry more than I would like to. So just takes time, and if you don't have the strength to do it this way, I guess you could just grate it on a cutting board, and then every little bit just lift it up and dump it into the water, because you want to really get it into the water as fast as you can. There's nothing faster than grating right into the water, but it's incredibly awkward holding onto a grater and grating potato at the same time, so I can understand if you don't want to do it that way. I guess there's the other method too of just running it through the food processor and going about it that way, but your texture is a little bit different when you go like that, so just something to be aware of. When you're getting to the end of your potatoes and you're running out of stuff to hold on to, just set that little piece aside. Cut it with a knife later if you want. Don't cut yourself, it's not worth it. Okay, now that we're done with our grater fun, just going to set that bowl aside and grab ourselves another bowl. And in this one I'm just going to put a towel inside of it. What we're going to try to do is separate the water from the potato. So we're just going to stick our hands in the bowl here, grab a big handful of potatoes, give it a good squeeze, and transfer it to the other bowl. We're going to rinse and repeat this process several times until we separate all the potato from the water. Now it's time to make use of that towel. So we're going to kind of bunch it up and then kind of turn it. And that's going to cinch down on the potatoes, squeezing them. So we're just doing a turning squeeze, and then I'm also kind of grabbing it and squeezing. We're just going to keep doing that to try to separate out all the water that's kind of left in the potatoes. There we go, it's going pretty good. Now the other thing of note is that the potato water that we got here, it kind of separates a little bit, so the stuff that's on the bottom is like a potato starch, and then the top is kind of just the water. So what we're going to actually do is, after we're done squeezing this potato, is we're going to separate out the water from the potato starch, just dumping it, keeping what stays in the bottom because the two are automatically separated. And we're going to use that potato starch for making our potato pancakes. Now I'm just going to take this bowl and over to the sink and dump out some of the water, so we're left with more of just the potato starch. There we go. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so I'm going to take the other bowl, dump out all the water, and keep a little bit of the potato starch. And I'm actually going to add it back into this one. Now time to add our potatoes back in using our towel. Then we'll crack our eggs into the mixture. 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. And then we want to add our salt in, because you definitely want to add salt to these or it just, well, they don't taste very good. And then add a little bit of our panko. I'm just going to start hand mixing this together, trying to get into a nice kind of slurry that will kind of hold together and have a good consistency. If your mixture is a little bit on the wet side, add more panko. If it's too dry, then add more beer, which I guess I haven't added any beer to this yet, but that's how you control the moisture. And as long as you get it to kind of the target level where it kind of holds together and it's not super sloppy, pretty much all set. It's a fairly forgiving recipe as far as measured quantity goes. Just adding a little bit of beer to it here. Probably added a little bit too much, but I had lots of panko set aside, so perfect that way. There we go, adding the rest of the panko, and just keep mixing away. You don't have to mix it like crazy, you just gotta make sure it's all nice and combined. And because we didn't pre-beat the egg, you're kind of beating the egg as you're mixing it at this point, but it's looking pretty good. The potato starts to kind of soak in some of the moisture from the beer, and the starch water from the potatoes really holds everything together, so we're good that way. Okay, it's time to start our frying. So we'll put a big pan down, we'll set our temperature to about a medium-high heat, and we'll pour in some oil. Now you can do the oil a lot of different ways. You can put a little drizzle down, you can cover the bottom of the pan, you can deep fry them. You can do whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. They all taste a little bit different, but I'm just kind of doing the bottom cover. And the way to know if the pan is hot is if you toss a little bit of salt in, it makes a little bit of a sizzle. Or you just wait an ample amount of time and everything will be up to the right temperature. So the camera angle wasn't quite perfect for this shot, so I'm just hand forming these, and then I'm just kind of dunking them in. If your oil gets all splattery, you probably don't want to put them in by hand, in which case if you have a turner lifter, you can set it on there and then slip that in and then kind of jiggle it and it will fall off, and you can get them in without dropping them in and without making a giant mess and not burning your fingers, which is always a positive thing. Now that we have all four in, we're going to take our lifter and just kind of flatten them out a little bit. Make sure they're nice and flat and pancake-like. There we go, perfect. And the other thing to do is set your timer for 5 minutes, because after 5 minutes you're going to want to flip them. And the thing to do is that if they don't look nice and golden brown when you flip them after 5 minutes, or if they're too black and not golden, you adjust your time accordingly, 1 or 2 minutes in either direction to achieve perfection. This is similar to the steak video where you make one and then you improve it on the next one until eventually you have it dialed in and you can just make it by the clock and everything always is perfect. The problem with the pan that I'm using here, this one's not cast iron, so it doesn't distribute the heat in the same way as my cast iron one does, so it's more difficult to cook on. Also, if it's large size, it doesn't fit over the burner in the same way. So I have hot and cold spots on the pan, and that can be incredibly frustrating where you have one perfect and another one not done as well. So for that reason, I recommend cast iron pans because they just work a lot better. And then once you flip them, it's probably in about another 5 minutes till they're finished. And something I recommend doing is turn your oven on to like 200, 250 degrees and get one of those drip drainer trays or cooling trays on a pan and put all your done pancakes in the oven to keep them warm. That way they're good to serve. Although mine disappeared the second they were made, so that wasn't really an issue for me. They were really delicious. And you can serve them with a lot of different things. Traditionally, it's sour cream and applesauce. I've seen other people do it with salmon. I like doing it with sausage, but I ran out of sausage, so I'm just going to show you a picture of just a single pancake. This is the end of this one. And let me know how you make your potato pancakes. I'm really quite interested. Using panko and beer I thought was pretty effective. And like this video and subscribe if you want to see more like this. And until next time, stay awesome.